All right, so we've gotten 3 people on already in seconds. Nicola Holness, good evening to you too, Comrade Holness. You are the first. Wait, Melbaton, right. We don't got a minute yet and you're on. Good evening to you, Melbaton. Thanks for joining. All right, so we've gone 7. We'll wait until we probably get to about 20, and then as you come on, please just share the live, share the link to the live. Thanks. We have an exciting program today. I'm looking forward to introducing my special guest in a moment. So was it a good week for you, Nicola? Anything exciting this week apart from the big demonstration in Portland? Natasha, thanks for joining. Respect to you. Yes, a lot of people were talking about the demonstration in West Portland and the response from the Member of Parliament, Mr. Vaz. Somebody asked me today, why do I choose a Friday evening when so much is happening? And the truth is, we had started these programs on a Monday and Friday, and we found that a lot of people gravitated more towards the Friday session. And also, somebody just texted me to say that they are an Adventist and they can't view the live. But just to let everybody know that these videos are on and you can view them well into the year, next year, and so on. They are on forever. All right, so let me start by thanking everybody for joining me once more to our regular feature on Facebook Live. We now broadcast through StreamYard, and we are projecting on Instagram and also on YouTube. Just want to give a quick shout out. This week we had a number of birthdays. Well, during the month of March, which ended yesterday. So Rosemary Shaw, Comrade Rosemary Shaw, our candidate in Eastern St. Thomas, she had a birthday on the 26th, and I was there, and a group of us went to celebrate with her. Shernette Longbridge, March 28th. Then we also have on the 30th of March, Zosia Burst-Whittle, birthday as well. And then Kenny in New York, March 26th. Good evening. Well, we said Tanisha Williams. Good evening to you. Good evening, Comrade Gail. Good evening, Sunny Days, Natalie. Good evening, Comrade Dwight Bernard. My constituency secretary was trying to reach you today. Can you make contact with her first thing Monday morning? Some good news for you. Hi, Margot. And hi, Neville. We also have some unfortunate passing of relatives this week. Fiona Fallon, who remembers her mother on March. Oh yes, this is the first anniversary of the passing of Fiona's mother, and we want to send out our love and blessings to you. Also, very, very sad indeed this week, Paulette Allen Flowers, we know her as, lost her father, Harry, on March 29th. So we want to say happy birthday to those that we have announced. If you know of any other birthdays, probably you can put it in the chat. Oh yes, Ian Emmanuel, yes. Your birthday was the 18th of March. Yes, I saw it, Respect to you. I hope you had a good time. And are you 50 yet? Yeah, probably 40 something, eh? Yes. So anybody else, let me know. We'll big you up and we will try to make this a feature every week. We also want to salute St. Jago High School. St. Jago won the TOJ. No, I'm talking about TOJ. I was about to say JBC, but it is, what's it? This is the TV station? TVJ. School Challenge Quiz. For I think the 6th time. So congratulations to, listen, I think we underestimate St. Jago now. St. Jago has performed well in so many areas. I didn't go to St. Jago, I went to Excelsior, but we have to big them up. They did very well, they are doing very well. I want to send out a special shout out to the principal and to all members of the School Challenge team, the students there. We're looking forward to boys and girls champs next week, and I'm sure they will continue to do well. So big up to them. And as we speak about schools doing well, we also have to recognize some of the unfortunate incidents that have been happening in our schools. St. Petersfield, yes, high school, I think it is, in Westmoreland, there was this unfortunate stabbing incident, and I'm trying to reach out to the principal. I think it's one of the schools that I would like to visit. I think all of our schools, especially for those that have, all of them really, have suffered during the COVID period. Students have been away from the classroom for long periods and are now returning. We're seeing increased antisocial behavior. So we want to send a special shout out to them and to wish them well. All right, so this week we have a very special guest, and I'm going to bring him into the studio at this time. Natasha, you're from Excelsior to Agianimo. Yes, I think Michelle Stern is an Excelsiorian as well. Yes, same color as Excelsior. All right, so today we have a very special guest. A lot of you know him as Sugar Shane. When he came on the scene, I can't think of anybody more colorful and excited as Comrade Shane Alexis. But we want to introduce him properly today. Comrade Dr. Shane Alexis, who ran for us in Southeast St. Mary some time ago. And we are so happy to have him. I say Sunny Day is saying that it's a long time, Shane, long time. Long time people don't see you. And, we want to start by just getting a brief update, not update, but a brief resume on who you are, because, when you came on the scene, there was a thing about where you're born and them things there. So I could just take it from there. So quick, because these things linger, and we just wanted to make sure that for posterity, as this video is, because it will be on these platforms forever. Just remind us again, Shane, where you're born and how you get to become Sugar Shane. Welcome.
All right. Thank you for having me, comrade. Good evening to all the comrades here and abroad. I just want to take the opportunity, Comrade Paul, to wish my good friend, and in fact, your very good friend, Comrade Harry Douglas, a happy 80th birthday.
When?
In fact, today,
Today.
in fact, what a lot of people don't know is that Harry is born on the 1st of April, but he was registered on the 2nd. So his documents, and again, remember, Harry is from Belfield in St. Mary. You know, a long time ago, paperwork was not high up on the agenda. And,
Yes.
you know, because we've become close over the years, I know this particular story. So I just want to recognize his contribution to the movement, to
Yeah.
my own development. And we have moved from, we are friends. He's a good mentor. He supports me and we speak every day about the party and work and things like that. So I just want to
But
wish.
Shane, let us pause to say a special word about Harry. By the way, I should let you know that my father was also born on the 1st of April. However, now listen to this. In those days, as is now, the 1st of April is regarded as Storm Fool's Day. So my father's parents didn't register him until the 4th of April. So you could never celebrate my father's birthday on the 1st. So I am waiting. I mean, he's deceased now, but I will await the 4th to acknowledge his birthday. But we want to say a massive big up to Sir Harry Douglas. And I put Sir there, not because I believe in the monarchy, but I think we in Jamaica, when we get to the Republican status, we should put Sir before Harry's name. He's truly a fine comrade, a gentleman who has served this party, this movement, this country well. How many years? You said 80?
80 not
80.
out.
Not out. Big up, Harry.
Yeah,
You
man.
see, Alburn, July, recognizing Harry. Everybody knows Uncle Harry.
Yeah, man.
So thanks for sharing that with us, Shane. Tell us about yourself now.
Um, well, let's clarify, as you said,
Yeah.
I was born in Kingston, Canada,
Yes.
while my mother was studying. And at the age of one, returned
All right. We're having a little problem early.
uh,
Comrade Shane, you're breaking up a little bit, but if you can hear me, let me see if we can get
so
what we are missing back on the record.
don't know if you lost me, so I'll
Yes,
continue.
yes, we'll ask you shortly.
And my kindergarten, my prep school, my high school.
Sorry, you said you were back in Jamaica after a year, right?
Yes, about. So I've
Okay.
always lived in Jamaica, never lived anywhere else, don't have anything. And in fact, Canada was just where my mother was studying at the time.
Yes.
So I didn't have a choice in the matter. But you know, it's funny how what was good about that particular experience, Comrade Paulwell, is that if you go into a high profile by election and all the government can come to you with is where you are born, where you have no control over that. And
Yes.
there was nothing illegal because, as everyone knows listening, that once you are a Commonwealth citizen, then you have the right to stand as a candidate for an election here in Jamaica. And Canada
Precisely.
is a member of the Commonwealth. So
Of course.
it was never an issue of law, it was simply optics. And subsequent to that, I went through the process with the help of yourself, party leader, Comrade Phillips at the time, Julian Robinson, of course, Harry, and many others, to
Yes.
achieve the necessary designation. What many people might not remember is it took almost the full 2 years to receive my documents in my hand. But I stayed the course, and I'm happy to report I am a full-fledged Jamaican as I sit here.
Yes. Well, on paper you are, but you are always Jamaican, from birth, and in fact, your entire early years were spent here, and don't I mean we don't have to mention your contribution. So you grew up. What school you went to in Jamaica?
I went to Campion.
Okay. All right. Okay. So
I went to Campion,
So,
but
so you didn't do well at tracks and cricket and those things, huh? You just did well at your books.
I was able to maintain my place in the school. But
Yeah.
no, it's a good school. I think that I'm grateful for what I received there. But certainly, when it comes to things like champs and Manning Cup, people like me, and of course the party leader have to keep a very quiet, low profile. I see
Yeah.
Julian supporting the cricket, but again, things and times have changed, eh?
Yes. Yes.
Uh, but certainly, grateful. Let me just quickly shout out to, and this is very counter to my personality, but I have a very vibrant fan club. Um,
Yes.
yes, and so I have to big up the members of my fan club. I
Yes.
see Comrade Reynolds on and others, and of course, all those that have wished me well during this time in the party. And just to say to you that um, I'm around. Things are quiet, and it's important to listen more and speak less for the time being, and
Yes.
participate in constructive dialogue like
Yes.
this. And I think that the issue of um, democratic socialism in our party requires this sort of debate and participation. And why why I am happy for your invitation this evening is that unlike many of my colleagues in terms of age, I am 40, I'm 44 this year. I
Yes.
am one of the few in the party currently that my education, my university education, is was done in Cuba. So
Right.
I'm a product of a socialist government. I have not only seen firsthand what socialism can achieve as far as a country, but if it were not for Comrade Fidel Castro, I would not be sitting here as Dr. Shane Alexis. And of course, the great sacrifice of the Cuban family. And of course, we have fraternal ties with the party there. But it is
But
certainly.
probably Shane, probably you could just give us an insight as to your period that you spent studying in Cuba. I know that a lot of people say that it was an entirely different world for them, that the socialization that they were accustomed to in Jamaica shifted dramatically when you got to Cuba. Some say, boy, they were deprived of some of the things that they were accustomed to. What was the experience like in Cuba when you were studying?
All right, so just a quick backup on how I ended up there. In fact, I left Jamaica at 17 to be a lawyer. But at that time, and coming out of high school, I was far more interested in girls and music. And so didn't do so well in my A levels, went to Barbados and started a degree in arts. And then the opportunity to study medicine came along, and I thought
All right, I think we're breaking up a little bit, but I know that you'll come back in quickly.
that was in 1997. And it's 7 years that the medical course takes there. First year is to learn Spanish. So you do everything in Spanish. That means all your books, all your exams, all the lectures are all done in Spanish. And so you have to learn the language.
Right.
And the scholarship that the Cuban government gave at that time, and I believe still does, included shirts, exercise books, pencils, a small stipend, 3 meals a day, and a roof over your head. Now, when you consider that in a country that was just coming out of the special period, that is, after the Soviet Union broke up in the early 90s, you remember, it
Yeah.
plunged Cuba into a significant economic dilemma.
Right.
They went from something like 14 million barrels of oil a year to 4 or 5 million barrels of oil a year. And so there was a tremendous sacrifice by the Cuban government to facilitate many of the CARICOM students who went there to study.
Yes.
Um, the bottom line is that I was able to apply myself, and it is a disciplined society. And for a young Jamaican, I benefited. While I wouldn't consider myself an at-risk youth at the time, the
Right.
truth is that a little discipline goes a long way in one's formation. And
Right.
I learned the language, went through, spent the 7 years. I've seen when Michael Manley said 100,000 can't be wrong. I can tell you that when you see 1 million lining the Malecon in Havana to listen to Fidel Castro, it's a tremendous experience. And one of the highlights of my studies was a visit to the presidential palace and meeting the big man himself. So I even here I have recognized that it is through the disciplined dedication of not just 10, 20, 30, but 50 years that the Cuban government was able to make a success of an education system that has 100% literacy,
Yes.
100%, that has medical schools throughout the island. We have one. There's something like 15 in Cuba, and that they're educating thousands of uh, students from Latin America, the Caribbean. In fact, the first group of Black South African students when Mandela was freed was in my group.
Right.
And so understanding that experience and that the grouping of all of us, including Palestinians, Syrians, people from the Far East studying in the same class with one thing in common, language, was fantastic. And it instilled in me a sense of social responsibility. And that's one of the things that's very important, I think, for young persons like myself in Jamaica to offer ourselves to support social programs, development, policy, strategy, not just at the grassroots level, at the political level as well, and hopefully one day as a member of the executive
Right.
of the
Well,
country.
well, as you reach here, Shane, and I'm just gonna invite our friends who are watching just to share the link and the live with as many persons as they can. I think this discussion is very important, and you're quite right in our previous or earlier discussion to acknowledge that as a party we don't delve into some of these crucial issues, and they are as relevant today as they have been. Now, you seem to be a tremendous admirer, as I am, of the Cuban model. The Cubans practice communism. You are not a communist. We subscribe to democratic socialism. And I wanted to steer the conversation now into this view that we are still not settled as a party about our philosophy, even though our constitution is quite precise. It spells out that we are democratic socialists. And precisely, you have a copy right there with you. It's our Bible. And probably in our discussion tonight, having been so familiar with what happens in Cuba on the communist side, we can draw the distinction as we engage in this discussion. Are you afraid of being called a democratic socialist, Shane?
No, absolutely not. In fact, in Southeast St. Mary at constituency conference, we ratified being democratic socialists ourselves.
Oh no, we're breaking up. I tell you, say if I were a minister today, I would fix those telecoms business. This ought not to be happening.
Uh, I am absolutely crystal clear in my mind that I am a democratic socialist without apology. I understand that there might be persons in the party, people in the party that have not settled on that themselves. But let me tell you why there is nothing to fear in 2022 and being linked to democratic socialism. First of all, the mindset or the idea that we are going to put the military on the streets and take away people's rights and try to centralize and take up all the assets of the banks and the big businesses is absolutely not on. What democratic socialism means is that everyone has a voice and that social infrastructure is a central part, a central plank of what we would do as a government. So when given the choice between profit or people, as Comrade Portia Simpson Miller stated, you balance people's lives. It cannot be just for profit. The idea, and I've heard many commentators speak about the message of the PNP, is outdated. There could never be anything more relevant than education, than health, than security, than farming, than housing. These are the principles of the People's National Party from 1938. The word prosperity is in the first objective in the Constitution. I am not being partisan to say any party can own a word, but the point is that as members of the People's National Party, as comrades, we must be clear in our minds that we are here to seek a better Jamaica for all,
Right.
not just for some interests, but for everyone. What that means is we must now reinterpret, not bring the definition from the 1950s or 60s, but now redefine what we mean, because we have to talk about the future, not the past.
Right.
What is it that we seek to change? I joined the movement to seek change in the healthcare system,
Right.
in particular, that it is no longer going to be acceptable to me as a doctor and as a Jamaican that people who give 30, 40 years of public service go to the hospital and are given 2 years for surgery on a waiting list, or die because we did not have oxygen, because our priorities were incorrect as a government. So we must be prepared to mash down lies, speak for ourselves, and define our position clearly. So, comrade, I am absolutely a socialist. I am here in my orange shirt to demonstrate to the comrades who are watching that it is okay to have a private office in New Kingston, and I'm only in private practice, but to balance that with compassion, that we must understand that there is nothing wrong with being profitable as a democratic socialist party or as a government, because we must be able to finance our programs. They can't simply just be called free. They have to be properly financed and structured.
But I want to come back to that. I want to come back to that very important point, Shane. You've mentioned orange that you're wearing. You know, today somebody called me and said that she saw me entering my office and she didn't know where I was located in New Kingston. But when she saw the color of the sign, and this is my legal office now, she saw the orange and she said, yes, man, that must be Mr. Paul Well's office. We are not ashamed of our color. We are not ashamed of who we are. We are not ashamed of being democratic socialists. And you have started on the healthcare. And I think I want us to focus on it. In a little while, I want to talk a little bit about education and probably housing. But healthcare is probably where it is so obvious, the inequality, the lack of access into in an area where people are crying out for better attention. You mentioned the waiting list, for example, for people who have served. how do you see, what do you see a future PNP government doing to ensure that democratic socialism can be felt in our healthcare system?
Well, I was just reading some of the messages. I see Sunny Days, I see Ian Emmanuel and other comrades making the point that we have to educate town center by town center on what our position will be.
Yes.
If given the opportunity, my position that I would share is that we must ensure that our financing of the health.
Oh no, breaking up again. All right, and I think he was onto something very important, financing. So I'm going to make sure that when we get him back on this feed.
Healthcare budget.
Um, Shane, you just broke up a while ago, and you were just about to talk about financing. So start over with that.
I was just saying that the first thing is that through the parliament, we should move to protect the population by ensuring that a specific percentage of what the country earns every year is dedicated to health. Not just a nominal figure, not just a figure, but a percentage to ensure that a farmer, a teacher, a policeman, an administrative clerk can look forward to a healthcare system that will give them a dignified experience. And dignity is very important in democratic socialism. Patriotism is very important in that system. So we must infuse into our programs a sense of country, a sense of worth, so that everyone knows that a school going to Champs has access from the country, has access to a track just like the big schools here in town. We must ensure that everyone knows that the best hospital might be Kingston Public, it might be Princess Margaret, it might be in Maypen, that there is a standard of care to be expected wherever you are. No, not every form of treatment is economically feasible throughout the island. We don't need 14 MRIs, but we must ensure that there is ease of access in a consistent manner so that people can get their diagnosis and at least the dignity of choice in terms of the treatment options available to them. Not intervene when it is too late and they are now terminal or are now going to die, and we say that we are sorry. That is not good enough. So a democratic socialist government would be focused on the need to put people at the center of our decisions, and the profits will follow.
There was a time, Shane, when Jamaica was doing very well in primary health care. And I think that was driven a lot by PNP socialist policies. Where are we with that now? And what are the challenges as we enter a world where we now have pandemic and pandemics that will arise? What's your view on that?
Let me make this point. When I listened to the tabling of the budget recently in Parliament, one of my great disappointments was that after 2 years, we cannot point to some new meaningful infrastructure that will protect us in the future from whether it's COVID-27, Ebola 54, or the aliens coming from another planet. We must be sure that we are building a strong healthcare system. We must invest in our healthcare, and really that means investing in the people. And again, when we are explaining democratic socialism to anyone, we must not feel intimidated because of what happened or the wrongs that happened in other countries or even here in Jamaica. Party leader, Comrade Michael Manley, acknowledged there were missteps during his time. However, when you look at one of the most charismatic leaders in the region, perhaps the hemisphere at that time, accepting that there are challenges in implementing equality and equity, but we must continue to try. We must learn from what was done, explain to the population that in the 30 or 40 years since, we have learned a lot. Your own role, Comrade Paulwell, in changing telecoms, in liberalizing many of the things we take for granted, Comrade Patterson as well, Comrade Portia Simpson, and on it goes, that we have made changes. We have shown that we understand that we must go forward ever, backward never. At the same time, we must not be afraid to accept that we must return stronger for the people. As you look at the news and you look at how things are framed, more time is spent explaining the junior stock exchange and the stock market than putting food in people's hands on a Friday evening.
Yeah.
More time is spent speaking about high-level policies and mechanisms than dealing with the bread and butter issues, like you said, what's happening in our schools in terms of mental health, in terms of antisocial behavior, what's happening in our music, what's happening in our sport. We have to reimagine.
Yeah.
Imagine a society like in Cuba, where if you are good at sports, you can attend a sports school and expect to represent the country, if not coach at a high level at other schools. We take for granted that we will always have sprinters or we will always have a cricketer. Look at our sports. It is a fantastic opportunity in 2022 to provide national support in a meaningful way to our sports.
Yes, our challenge continues in terms of access to broadband. I see that Shane is having this difficulty. Yeah. Sorry, Shane, you broke up again. Just briefly, though, you're speaking about.
I was saying that, and to potentially
Yeah.
see economic growth in the nooks and crannies of this country. Do you know what a fourth division footballer in England makes? Is more than you make as a bank teller.
Yeah.
So we have to reimagine. You can't find a good welder or a good tradesman because we have looked down on those professions and those careers for too long. A democratic socialist government will allow us to explore these possibilities so that young people, wherever they may be listening, can feel assured that the next PNP government will be developing in line with our principles, as stated in the Constitution, their lives through micro and then the macro level. But if we are not prepared to put people first, and that is, I'm not sure if you're always developing catchy phrases. It might have been you that put people first. Then we will remain in the wilderness.
Yes. So you believe, as I do, Comrade Shane, that a good way to build back support for our party is to go out there and to be strident in terms of the fundamental objectives that we still have, which is to pursue policies, democratic socialist policies that are designed to give people equal access to important things like proper health care, education, housing, and so on. And there are no risks. Well, it is far better to do so than not to, because of the support that we will be able to garner. You know, we lament the fact that there's about 60% of our people who don't even bother to vote. Do you think we can attract some of those persons back into the polling booths to support a People's National Party?
Absolutely, comrade. I believe that there's always an opportunity to convince people to change, to participate. I won't go down the whole argument about attractiveness and so on. I am speaking about the fundamentals.
Right.
What is it that we are building around? Anytime you see me speak, I am going to be speaking like this. I am happy to have the debate with anybody, anytime, any place, on the benefits of putting people first. It is time that we recognize, as Comrade Patterson has been agitating for, and many of our party leaders, and I believe the intention of NW Manley was to achieve full independence from England, but it had to be done in stages. When you look, Comrade Paulwell, and we talk about housing, for example, why is it that we still allow the name Penn to be a part of where people live?
Yes.
The pen was a place that in the plantation during slavery times, the pen was where the animals were kept.
Yes.
Now we keep humans and we allow the name pen, whether it's Grant's pen or Taw's pen or any pen, and I mean no disrespect.
May pen.
May pen. I mean no disrespect to anybody listening. I am not saying they are animals. I am saying that how can we continue to allow that to seep into the minds of young people? If you treat people like animals, then they will behave accordingly. So part of uplifting the country, explaining to them what is possible by leveling up, by allowing and ensuring that those who can do well continue to do well. Absolutely. But those who can't, that our programs will be geared to them and we show how we're going to pay for it.
All right, so that is important. Yes, paying for it. How we pay for it, Shane?
So, for example, I wrote some years ago, and it was carried in the newspaper. We look at a place like National Chest Hospital.
Yeah.
National Chest Hospital is several acres in prime residential neighborhood, right up there in Barbican, where many diplomats and high-level people live. What do you think 5 or 15 or 20 acres of land is worth? Why not divest it, partner with the NHT, partner with private developers, use the money to then finance capital investment, a CT scan, MRI, etc. Children's Hospital, we have a private wing at Tony Thwaites, but there's no such thing for children in this country. Children's Hospital has a space. Let's divest land. Let's facilitate the construction of those kinds of services to pay for those who can't afford it. In your own constituency, Comrade Paulwell, Bellevue lands are vast.
Yes.
Mental health has changed.
Oh gosh, breaking up again. I just started to talk about Bellevue, an important area for me. All right. I hope you will.
To where we are in a position.
Okay.
Where we are in a position to use those lands for housing and commercial activity, because mental health no longer requires these massive hospitals locking people away. It's where you allow people to re-enter society in a controlled manner, get them back to where they're functional in the community, where the community sees that schizophrenia or bipolar disorders are not, they're not going to chop you up and kill you. Right. They can be meaningful contributors in the community. So you have halfway houses, in other words, a 3-bedroom or a hostel that is used for that. You don't need these massive hospitals. So those lands, we can look at St. Anne's Bay Hospital on the North Coast. What are the opportunities for divestment, partnership, for hotels, for health tourism, for infrastructure, etc.? So those are some thoughts that we can look at that can allow us to pay for some of these social policies. And we could do this with schools. There is no need. When you look at Central Kingston, for example, you have Wilmer's girls, boys, Kingston College, St. George's, Holy Trinity, and others. All don't have to have, you don't need 5 running tracks in that area. You could have one good one.
Right.
One good science lab, one good computer lab, one good welding and woodwork workshop for those who have talents with their hands. So it is rethinking beyond geographic lines or fiefdoms where we protect the interest of some,
Right.
to open up the walls, lick down the walls and build bridges is really what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Create opportunities for that sort of collaboration and
Yes.
sharing.
So Shane, you and I are now in the private sector. I have a business as a lawyer. You run a business as a doctor. So in some ways, we are regarded as capitalists in some ways, but we fundamentally are socialists because it is more about how we treat others, how we utilize power to enable people to have greater access. And you know, my own view, Shane, is that we need, as agents of change, to vision a Jamaica where you have a middle class society. So you're going to work towards getting, through socialist policies, all your poor people up to the middle class, which I think is a fundamental objective of any socialist state. Because at that level, you are guaranteed your proper health care, good education, housing, and so it is entirely compatible with what we do in our private avocation now. And I see that you wanted to become a lawyer too before you got into this medicine business.
I wasn't bright enough.
Yeah, but in our party today, we are not having these discussions. I see where Natalie is suggesting that, boy, we should have this in a town hall format to get out there, to start to get our people to have these discussions. But we are not, and we continue to wallow in all kinds of other discussions, apart from getting us to focus on the fundamental reason why we are members of this great party. How are we going to move forward, Shane?
Well, first of all, Comrade Paul, I don't agree. I think we are having the conversation. You and I are here tonight.
Right.
You have to start somewhere.
Right.
And there are others who are willing to have the conversation. I can afford to be strident because, like you, I only work for myself. But I'm also, it is no secret that I was educated in Cuba. It is it would be difficult for me to have a view different to what I am explaining here tonight.
Right.
And I see one of the comrades mentioning that it's important that you are able to speak the language of democratic socialism. Now, one of the concerns I think that people may have is our ability to raise money from those who have it, whether it's for elections or to attract investment. Again, that will not be a problem as long as we maintain an honest and diligent line with what we're saying and it corresponds with what we do. For example, Vietnam is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It's a socialist country. China is a communist country, one step further, and we know the powerhouse that China is. But then we can look at Europe. There are the Scandinavian countries, the Norways and the Finlands and so on, that have social programs, but are still very much pro-capital. But it is a balancing act. And it requires us as individuals, whether candidates, whether indoor agents, outdoor agents, workers, supporters of the party, to understand that in
All right, we'll come back shortly. These are intermittent breaks, but I'm sure he will resume presently.
Of every member of the party, because we are all ambassadors for the People's National Party. Comrade Party Leader Mark Golding is not the only voice in the PNP. He cannot do it alone. He has said so, and we all know that that is the case. So everywhere we speak, every word we type must be towards a common goal of returning the People's National Party to government through a democratic socialist approach. Now, the owners of capital here in Jamaica, it is my view, And Comrade Paul, well, you've been in this much longer than I have been. I know you've celebrated 24 years, I believe, as a member of parliament.
Yeah.
And yes, and more to come. And it is not easy to convince people to part with their hard-earned money. But I believe that if we capture the imagination, if we work hard at explaining point by point what we will do for each member of this country, each voter, and start to build a groundswell, we can do it and we will do it. But the faster we recognize that we are stronger together, the better it will be for all of us.
So Shane, the question that a lot of people will have is, where is Comrade Shane in all of this? We were very attracted to that very energetic and dynamic campaign in Southeast St. Mary, and it certainly wasn't the time for the party to win that by-election, because I think there were so many other external issues affecting that race. But what is your situation now with Southeast St. Mary? And if not there, where are you looking? Because it is clear to me, and that orange shirt speaks so much to where you're at, that you are not finished with this thing as yet. So tell us where you intend to go now, Shane.
Well, I think the first thing, comrade, is I'm grateful for all the support, the opportunity to be here talking with you, exchanging thoughts, learning, sharing with the comrades online. I see people from Barbados, the Carolinas, all over the world. It was a privilege to serve in Southeast St. Mary. It's been a privilege to be a member of the executive of the PNP. And I hope that politics is not finished with me. But as long as I have the opportunity to share my thoughts, then I do so without fear or favor, and I have nothing to hide. So if and when I am called upon and there's a role that I can serve in, I will. I must say that before the by-election, I didn't have children, but I have two wonderful girls, a 2 and a 3-year-old. Luckily, they're pretty like their mother, but they have my personality, so it's a handful. And it's important to spend time, and it's important that comrades spend time with their families. Too many of our colleagues, Comrade Paul, have lost family life for the sake of politics and arguing and back and forth. But what I will say is that we must continue to move forward hand in hand, step by step, and I believe we can achieve. We cannot hide the talent in our party because we are overflowing with it. Yes. What we have to ask the comrades who are listening tonight and watching is that help us to move forward. I can't speak unless I'm invited to speak. I can't insert myself where I'm not asked to be. And that is true of many other of our colleagues, as you know. The politics has not dulled my interest in Jamaica. I am not afraid of it. I enjoy it. And I would not be here if it was not for the support of many, not just here in Jamaica, but even in the diaspora. But the way forward, comrade, is to get back to fundamentals. Read the Constitution. Be familiar with it. Look at the objectives. Ask yourself, why did N.W. Manley, with such a lucrative legal practice, put that on hold for the interest of the average Jamaican? I'll tell you something, Comrade Paul. One of the reasons I got into politics is because I don't want my children to live behind a big wall. I want them to enjoy Jamaica. I want them to play in St. Mary and every other parish. I want them to be able to come to Port Royal and just play with other children. Yes. Because there's more in common. We have more in common as humans. That's what I've learned with COVID when I look at the pictures of the war. We have more in common than divides us. But if we keep forcing our children to play behind walls and tablets and not interact with one another, not to see our society and fall in love with it, then we won't have a country in 20 or 30 years. So it's time to start planning our manifestos, not for an election cycle, Comrade Paulwell, but for 20 and 30 years down the road, and say, whether it is Philip Paul, Shane Alexis, or my child, we are clear on the roadmap as a party, what we are there.
All right, we're having another break. The technology
To
is,
achieve.
yes, playing with us this evening. Um, I'm sure you'll return shortly.
As a final point, Comrade Paul, I just want to bring the attention of those listening, and I can send you the link for your Facebook, that when you look at speeches by Maurice Bishop, the hairs on your arms will stand up and you will start to understand why democratic socialism was portrayed as a negative. And in one of his speeches at a university, he pointed out the main concern that the US government had with the Grenadian Revolution was not that they was involved with Cuba or the Soviet Union, but it was because it was black people that spoke English, and that black Americans could perhaps get excited or mobilized behind the New Jewel movement, as it was called at the time. My point is this, comrade: I am not marching to halfway tree to burn down the country. What I am saying is that we must all have a fire inside that allows us to push forward. It's not who talks the loudest that has the best point. And the pen is always mightier than the sword.
Well, I want to say, Comrade Shane, as you end on that note, how refreshing it has been in this discussion. You know, we've had a series of dialogue involving Raymond Rice, we've had Damien on the program, we've had Dr. Peter Phillips, and it is clear that we need now to encourage greater debate, greater dialogue about who the PNP is, and to summon up that energy for us to move forward in one accord, in a united way. And you have shared with us ideas this evening that are going to be critical to us moving forward. And I hope when we invite you to participate in a panel next time with these other minds and others, you know, because that's how we have to let ideas contend, and to get us back on a track, on a trajectory to emphasize our socialist principles and ideals. So I know I told you 45 minutes, and we've gone over that time very, very quickly. And yes, it's a Friday evening. And one of the things I saw somebody mention earlier, I think it was Karen, that they really respect you as a family man. We like to see family men in particular who come and salute their children and their commitment to their family. So we don't want to take your family too much away from you. But I really, really want to thank you, Comrade Shane. You have any closing words you want to share with us?
Comrade Paul, keep up the good work. Great to see you on this platform. Great to see the comrades from all over joining. Continue to spread the word. It's always easier to spread something positive than something negative. And, you know, thank you for your encouragement and opportunity. And I look forward to what the future holds.
Yes, well, Comrade Melbaton Newell is saying that you need to bring back Dr. Shane at a later date, and we certainly will try for that. As we try to get the party to settle down and to focus on those important issues that will guide us and to enable us to capture the imagination of the Jamaican people. Enjoy your weekend.
You too, comrade.
Kiss your two daughters for us. And
I will.
And hail up the wife.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
One love, Comrade Shane Alexis, our special guest this evening on Connection Live. This is the Connection boss tuning out. This is a busy weekend again, 10K in the morning, and some other activities as we are on the road, as we take the PNP message far and wide. Good evening, everybody. Great weekend. Over and out.